Alrighty. Thank you again for joining on another episode of Logos Pathos Ethos. I am your host this evening for about the next 30 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week, but unfortunately, I've still been battling this cold or flu or whatever it is I have. So thank you so much for your patience with me. And just remember, we're here every Tuesday from 7 p.m. till usually about 7:30. But please, we thank you so much for joining us. Give me 1 second. I'm telling you, allergies are really, really bad this time of year in this part of the country. But again, so today, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. We're going to just literally delve straight into the material, what we're going to talk about, and let you guys go. Let's see here. All righty. So, first and foremost, I want to say here at LPE, we always try to promote people out there in the community that's doing good. We really do applaud you and thank you so much for your contributions for the community and everyone that you're trying to help. If you are available this coming Saturday on 5309 MLK Boulevard here in Houston, Texas, at the Shrine of the Black Madonna, we have Care Alliances, the Care Alliances. They have solutions, services, and volunteer expo. And there you will learn many different things. You'll learn different, looks like fresh foods, different workshops on how to develop second streams of income, urban gardening, youth programs, personal finance. You can understand the laws like concealed carry. This should be really, really interesting. It says, who should attend? Solutions, service providers, families, individuals, parents, community service entities, persons within the community, anyone out there that's interested on empowering your community, regardless of whatever community that is. If you are interested in empowering it, please come out to that workshop. Excuse me. This coming Saturday. Thank you. This coming Saturday, I'm sorry for that. It starts at 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. this Saturday, April 13th. Okay. All righty. Now, next up, I want to say again, thank you so much for joining us. You all may be wondering exactly what we're going to talk about. The title is Something Has Changed. And I'm sure when I say something has changed, there are some things that immediately popped in your mind. Absolutely, things have changed in our own lives, personal lives. Absolutely, things have changed in our political environment. Absolutely, things have changed in our cultural values. Absolutely, there's been a change in terms of what we may see as being moral versus immoral in this country and abroad. Absolutely, things have changed in terms of like the normal family dynamic and structure. The nuclear family no longer of 2024 doesn't look like the nuclear family as I was taught in 1984. Things have changed, absolutely. And a lot of people tend to say, yes, things have changed, and they begin to talk about or identify the change in terms of they're the problem. Something is wrong with them. Look at what we've come from and come to. I think that really begins to interrupt or interfere with our ability to understand the change that you may be seeing. I'll give you an example. How many times have you said as a parent, well, back in my day, how many times have you said something like that? That's because you were addressing change. And usually because we didn't understand the change that we were seeing. Rather than actually understand it, we rather from a fear-based position, we default to, well, back in my day, and then come off as preaching from this, high moral plateau that we weren't even on when we were young. But anyway, so tonight's show is to help us understand exactly what we're seeing and why we're seeing what we're seeing. But I'm going to have to bore you for a minute. I'm sorry. I just got to tell you. I'm going to have to bore you for a minute. And in boring you, I'm going to present some pieces of human nature that you probably really never considered. And we're going to have a conversation about some things that you may have been taking for granted. Because after having that part in place, then we can understand exactly what we're seeing in terms of the change that we're having trouble with responding to. So here we go. There was a day when on this planet, early man naturally divided themselves in terms of hunters or gatherers. Hunters usually were male, gatherers or nurturers or rearers were female. The reason that is because we as men have more muscles and are better equipped to deal with the environment and the perils and dangers that threaten us. And so the women were socialized out of evolutionary need, if you will. Socialized to be the rearers, the nurturers, because they were the bearers of life, such that you started seeing a stratification of male roles and female roles based from that early human development. Now you have to remember, and I keep saying this on this show, if you really don't understand the gravity of that and the necessity of the way we did it 35,000 years ago, 45,000 years ago, then look at it this way. Like, early man could only survive depending on how well we dealt with any threat. And the males were better suited to answer that call. Now, from that point, history usually has really kept that model in terms of how our species functions. Kept that model up until about World War II. World War II. That is why for so long throughout history, that is not to say that there weren't any exceptions, but throughout history, the men went out, killed whatever it is that they needed to kill, go get the money, bring in the bread, whatever it was. They would go out the door and go face the world and bring whatever it was back to the home. But, and the women would be at home baking bread or whatever it is that, women do. But then when World War II hit, because the men went to war, the women had to remain here and work. When that happened, and by the way, I'm all for it personally. So this is what I don't want you to hear is I'm going forward now because the conversation is about to shift. What I don't want you to hear is Ron is for or against anything that I'm talking about. I'm only giving you a history lesson in a certain context because I need you to understand what I'm saying right now because I'm making a point later. So when the women went to work, they would come home and be mom and dad, nurturer and breadwinner. The grandmothers at that time would keep the child or what have you, or the children that were young while they did the work and then come back and then the grandmamas bring them back or the aunts or whatever the case may be. Y'all remember how like early 40s, 30s families where it was like your grandparents. That's who we're talking about. They were at work undergoing the same pressures that men normally would be undergoing in a work environment. And then when the men came back, if they came back, they then had to go back to the same position that they had before the war. And as we know, that genie was not going back into that bottle. All right. As a result of that, you now have another individual in the home that is a breadwinner. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Invictus. Thank you, T. Marie. So now you have another individual that is a breadwinner in the home. And in large in part, if the extra person is an additional income, the argument could be made from the female's point of view and has been made from the female's point of view. Like, what do I need a man for? That's a very valid argument. I can think of a couple of levels, but that is not my place. But I understand the argument. And the argument stems basically from that awareness that I, as a woman, have equal access to resources that at one point in time prior to the 1940s was predominantly run or accessed by men and only men. So now that we're in a society where, oh my goodness, Chrissy Parker, how are you? It is so good to see you. It has been a while. So now that they are in a position where they can bring equal, if not more revenue to the home, the question becomes, what do you need a man for? And so now you start where there was a power differential, now the playing field is starting to even. Now, I want you to hold that in one hand. Let's kind of shift gears and something else now. One of my earliest shows I talked about was rape. And in that show, I was talking about male on female violence. One of the reasons that that number is not as high as it could be in terms of male on female violence is because this country in particular has it in our law, where Constitution, where we're allowed to have guns. That's very important. That's a major step in human evolution, mankind, like you name it. And what that law does, one of its consequences is that now in nature, where men, those same hunter gatherers, big muscular guys, going out there facing nature, whatever, rate, protecting the family, all of that kind of, stuff. And the woman sitting there raising the children, she's, it has to be dependent on him or whatever. Well, that just left the playing field, guns. Because at any given time, if that man starts going haywire, all she has to do is say, hey, no, I may not be able to match you physically, but this gun right here is a force multiplier. And so now men, with all of our constitutional carry, there it is. Men, we now, as aggressive as we may be, and as we can be, as physically imposing as we can be, especially towards women, if at any given point in time that gets out of control, she can defend herself and will defend herself. And they have defended themselves. That's why the number isn't as high as it could have been. Now, I'm only bringing that part to our attention because I'm putting a puzzle together. So you have one situation here where women on an economic level can now make as much money, if not more, than the male, have the same status, socioeconomic status, because laws are now allow them to vote. Now these new laws that the Supreme Court is coming up or did pass or whatever. I think I take issue with that, taking the female's right to her body, but that's a different story. But nonetheless, women on the whole have made large jumps and leaps and bounds in terms of their social status, their social rights and laws to protect them. Because there was a time you all were at men's mercy. You have that in place. Then now you have, if you look at the physical aspect, you have guns. And then last but not least, something interesting happened. This is the conversation that us men are having with each other that I don't think that most women are aware. And I'm going to put you in the room with us. Over about the last maybe 15 years, maybe 20, men have been feeling as if the male has come under fire. And what I mean by that is men have been no longer painted in the picture as the big hustler, caveman, Arnold Schwarzenegger type of dude, gun wielding, cigar smoking, drinks beer, fight, everything that makes a man a man. We've really been feeling like that's been under attack. A really good wise man once told me. He told me this a long time ago. He said, the war is over. The war against masculinity, Ron, it's over. It's been over since about '04, '05, roughly. If you would like to know why we may say that, then I would offer you this. Look at most of your actors that are in Hollywood now. Look at your male lead roles. Most of your male lead roles, most of them are not like The Rock. They're very small. They're not imposing, threatening, physically threatening, which is something that men we pride ourselves on. That's not what they represent. And it's because there's a change, there's a shift in terms of what masculinity is. The masculinity that I am accustomed to would be considered toxic, according to this new generation. When you look at that and you just bring all of that together, just bits and pieces of a puzzle, what you have is what I just described for you was everything that we talked about, you could relate to because you agreed with it or you experienced it. Like, yeah, I understand it. The man's supposed to go to work, the woman's supposed to stay home, take care of the children. Or, okay, yeah, that's true. I am working now, but still, my husband's still head of household, but I still contribute or I make the most money, whatever. We have these traditional roles. You understand that. But that model has broken down. And the reason that model has broken down is for the same exact reason why the image of the male has changed, which is for the same exact reason why the use of guns, if you will, has also changed. The reason being is because technology. Technology. And I'll prove it. I'll prove it. When COVID hit, we were moving towards an online economy. But COVID put that process into hyperdrive, such that now you can go right now and get a job, apply, interview with the person, have a second interview with the person and the person's supervisor, get the job, go through training, orientation, meet your new teammates, get a layout of what you'll be doing, and that entire process occurred without you ever leaving your front door. Technology. Technology has allowed us to now be able to have an economy in addition to an already existing, pre-existing online community. When you look at that mind state in terms of this is the future, this is the model of commerce and human interaction going forward. We don't care what kind of car you drive when you show up to the office building, because this company doesn't pay office space rent or own a building. So having a new car for the sake of impressing your coworkers is no longer something that you have to worry about. That's an old problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is because of technology that now, even if you look at the growth of the LGBT community, I just this weekend saw a really cool movie called Monkey Man, filmed in India, Indian actors and actresses. One of the important core parts of the movie had to deal with specifically the LGBT community. I had no idea that was an important part of the movie. All right, cool. In India, why? Because part of their argument is, and I understand it, it's technology. Part of their argument is, hey, if I was looking for the attributes, and this is coming from their position, if I'm looking for the attributes out of a person that I would like to be paired with in life, I no longer have to be regulated to choosing. I'm putting you in their heads. I shouldn't be regulated to choosing whether it's a man or woman, because I'm not even looking for those same qualifications, those same qualities that a person would, let's say, be looking for. Let's say, like, if, hey, I want some kids and I want a big, muscular man. I want him to make a six-figure. I want him to be able to take care of me. I'm not even looking for that from a lesbian's point of view, because she can make the same money that any man can make. I just made that point. She doesn't even have to leave her front door and make that money and still do the good job that I'm sure she's qualified to do, and don't have to worry about the bias, the sexism, the racism, any of those kind of isms that are occurring in the office building. Because why? Where she is sitting is the office building. This is the new world. See how it's taking care of things that we was trying to legislate out of our society? Look at how we're getting rid of some of those isms just by our interactions through technology. We don't have to worry about sexism, racism, and all that kind of stuff as much anymore now because of technology. If she's like, hey, you know what? The things I don't care if the man, feel free to, thank you so much. Yes. So case in point, like she may not need a man because she's not into muscles. What does she need muscles for? We live in an economy now where a man doesn't have to be really physically fit in order to ensure anything happens. That's no longer a requirement. Why? Because we don't have an economy where someone goes and digs a ditch, or puts steel, and steel mills together, that kind of stuff. We're not even that type of economy anymore. Globally speaking, we're technology based, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And because technology is allowing us to use it at the capacity that we are using it, these are the consequences or the byproducts of which we're witnessing. We kept thinking that, oh my God, the world is going to hell in a handbasket because the gays are going to take over. The women are getting all the jobs. The black people and the Mexicans are running us over, taking all our jobs. We're thinking like that. World War is coming. Putin is going to push the button any day now. Jesus is on his way back. We know that's coming. Hey, all of that. That's us panicking. That's all it is. That's us panicking as a response to all of those different areas that we talked about because all of those different areas that we talked about are changing because of technology, changing either to no longer existing or utterly annihilated instantly, whatever the case may be, are no longer applicable. It's not that we're coming to an end. Our world of how we understand the world is coming to an end. And that's what you're reacting to. Because the change is right in front of you. I am not trying to convince you of this. I am only pointing, showing you what this is. Don't get mad at me about anything that I've said, because I am only pointing out that change is not only happening, but it's been happening. That's the point. I want you to understand the change that you're looking at, so that way, instead of being so fatalistic in your thinking that things are getting worse, change the way you're looking at it. Adjust the way you're looking at it. Let me give you a point. It's kind of like, at first, Hubble telescope allowed us to see deeper into the Milky Way, into the universe than we ever saw before. Then we put up the James Webb telescope. And the James Webb telescope allowed us to see deeper, deeper, deeper than the Hubble telescope allowed us to see. Does that mean that everything that the James Webb telescope saw was not there prior to us seeing it? It's always been there. We just had to be able to look deeper. That's the whole point. Look deeper. I hope what I've said has made sense. I hope you understand that the change that you're witnessing is as natural as your body has a thirst for water, or as natural as it has an appetite for and hunger for food. The reason why the change that you're witnessing is disturbing you is because it's happening so fast. And I understand. I get it. And I understand it's really hard to adjust to. I do. I get it. But it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope you've enjoyed your time with us. I'll be here next week. And also next, I'm not going to say we're going to talk about this next week. I have no idea what that's going to be. But I would like to know, before I close out, if you have an opinion on the death penalty, I would like for you to send me an email at logos, pathos, ethos, the way at gmail.com. And let me know exactly what your position is, what you feel about it, what you think about it. If you have a real strong position on it and you would like to come onto the show and I interview you and we discuss and talk about the death penalty on air with each other, if you're comfortable with doing so, please, by all means, write me. Let me know you'd like to come onto the show if you feel as strongly about that topic, about that issue. Please, I'd love to hear from you. The reason being is I saw just today something that caught my attention. There's a guy named Brian Dorsey. And Brian Dorsey basically was, he should have been put to death, or he may be put to death in about the next maybe hour. Brian Dorsey was this guy that was found guilty of murder of his cousin and his cousin's husband when he got really drunk, blacked out, and allegedly blacked out, and killed both of them. and then locked their kid in the room with them. And that's where the police found them. And then the police, apprehended him, took him to jail, where he's served on death row, where it's today. Now he's supposed to pay for it with his life. The reason this particular case caught my attention is because this man evidently never had a conviction, not even a speeding ticket in life. Like, just straight and narrow, never no problem. And got drunk, blacked out, and this occurred. And they said that every day that he was in prison, never an infraction, never an issue or anything like that. So much that all of the guards at the prison where he's serving his sentence, where now he's about to pay for it with his life, they were trying to petition the governor, the Supreme Court, whom denied it today. They all said, look, man, this man here got really drunk. They found that it was only alcohol. They don't know what happened. He blacked out, whatever the case was. We really know that this dude is not a killer. And we really would like for you all to commute a sentence to life imprisonment, because y'all killing a dude like he's really remorseful for what he did, but he's not a killer. You're not killing a killer in that sense. This is what the guards are saying. I found that interesting. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guards, 75 guards. All of the guards that was running the entire prison, or at least was over him, they all signed a petition. I found that very, very interesting. So if you would like to discuss that, please let me know. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think about that. If you want to discuss it, and we will, okay? Thank you so much again. I hope to see you next week, same time, same channel. You all take care. God bless. Thank you again. It's always a pleasure.